Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa, one of the co-hosts of the show, brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. Beautiful Game Network is one of the most rapidly growing soccer podcast networks in the United States. We cover a lot of USL, and it's also expanding into MLS and NWSL. So if you guys haven't checked out the website, be sure to check out our podcast and any of the other BGN members' podcasts on the website at bgn.fm. You can also find written articles on BGN as well, including Carson Merck's All Toros No Bull, which usually is released every Wednesday on the BGN FM's website. We also want to invite you to check out the Beautiful Game Network's sponsors, Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. And of course, check out our personal sponsor, Natural Beauty Spa. Hopefully, once this pandemic is over, we can get back to serving you all in the Rio Grande Valley. And today we've got a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. First of all, we want to thank everybody who is tuning in right now. I appreciate that y'all are tuning in, even with the change of showtime. Like I said, we usually air every Wednesday at 7 p.m., but I had something come up yesterday that I had to postpone it until today. So I appreciate all of your patience. And glad to see that y'all are tuning in. For everybody that's watching right now on YouTube and on Periscope, just rest assured we do welcome y'all's comments of anything that we talk about. You know, you guys make this show how it is, how fun it is to talk about the Toros and soccer. You know, not only with us as co-hosts, but also try to involve every one of you of the Toros fans with any questions or concerns, or if you just want to vent about the team, you're more than welcome to do so in the YouTube chat and of course in Periscope chat. And also, if you can see right there, right next to me, you'll be able to see all of the messages that pop up in both of the platforms that we are live at this moment. So without further ado, let me go ahead and, like always, let's go ahead and introduce the co-host for today. First one I'm going to introduce, obviously he's the co-host, the main co-host here in Down in the Valley. We've got Jacob Young coming back after a week of hiatus. Jacob, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, doing great. Looking forward, of course, to talk some soccer. It should be a fantastic one. Also for, of course, something that popped up for you yesterday. Well, we can blame two teams, really. Hashtag blame Frisco and hashtag blame the Bull, since it's technically rivalry week for at least one of the squads I know. But yeah, technically one of the squads, yes, it would be for RGVFC. Frisco isn't really our rivals. They try to be, but we all know how it goes.
In South Oklahoma, am I right?
Yep.
It's all about South Oklahoma. And I see that you're wearing a hockey jersey today.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go Vancouver Canucks, because that is my hockey team. I bought the jersey. I'm in it for the long haul. This is very exciting. I know, Ray, you got something to say about that, but hey, it ain't too bad. And we'll probably beat Dallas. Well, we'll beat St. Louis. We'll close it out, I believe, tomorrow. And then if we end up playing Dallas, we will beat them too.
All right. Well, that sounds like a bold statement there, Cotton. Let's see if that pans out.
Hopefully it does.
So now let's go ahead and introduce one of the collaborators of this show. He's got his own little project that you guys have heard about before, South Texas Border Sports. So, by the way, I'm really appreciative of being the first guest of his new State of the Toros podcast series that just started this week. So I'm very honored to have been a part of it, and wanted to thank you while you're here. And of course, I'm talking about Ray Silva of South Texas Border Sports. Ray, how's it going?
Edson, thank you for the warm welcome, and Jacob. I mean, you're up against the reigning Cup champs, so that's a daunting task to like KO them in six games in the first round.
Yeah.
But the Dallas Stars, believe me, I think they're starting to find that groove, and once they find that groove, it's like game over. Calgary, Vancouver, you're next.
We found our groove in the qualifiers, and we haven't lost it. So, hey.
A lot of the times in sports, it's all about who gets in the best form once you get into the playoffs. And if I'm not much of a hockey fan, but if that is the case, you can't minimize what Vancouver has done. But anyways, let's get back to topic with soccer. Want to give a huge shout out to everybody in the chat. I know we've got 7 people watching right now. Be sure to leave a message on the YouTube chat or in Periscope chat. We will be able to read it here on the screen. I want to see where everybody is watching us from. Are you watching from the Valley? Are you watching from Houston? I mean, are you watching from anywhere around the world? We want to say hi to every one of y'all Toros fans that are passionate enough about this team, to be involved in it more than just the 90 minutes that the Toros play, being active on social media. And I know we talked about this last week. We talked about it last week, how people have become active in social media. There are some things that, right, I don't agree with, especially with some of the takes that Facebook has. But at the end of the day, they're participating. They care enough about the team to be vocal about it in social media, right? So we welcome that, and we are more than welcome, to allow you all to learn more about the Toros and how this actually works. That's what we're here for. This is a platform for the fan, but also a platform to inform the fans more about this team. So if you guys have anybody that are Toros fans but don't have much of an idea how this team works, share this stream on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever. But help us reach the word of Down in the Valley to all of the Toros fans in the Rio Grande Valley and in Houston, Texas. So without further ado, guys, let's go to the first topic of today. And obviously, we're talking about our reactions to this past match between OKC Energy and RGVFC. The game ended in a 0-0 draw. And honestly, I know both of us, Ray, because Ray and I were part of last week's episode. We weren't really optimistic about this match going into it.
I will tell you this much. Didn't I call my bold result? They were going to play significantly better, albeit it wasn't going to be that much of a difference. And it was going to end in a scoreless draw.
You did, actually. You did. And then you gloated about it on Twitter right after the game. I saw that. But hey, it's always awesome when you get a prediction like right, even if it's like the wild prediction. But anytime you get a prediction, you're like it's like don't even talk to me, you peasant, kind of thing.
Well, I did see a little bit of improvement on the team. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the team was able to hold a shutout for the first time this season. And if it wasn't for a 94th, 95th minute play by Cello stopping an Oklahoma City service,
We are not worthy. We are
it
not worthy.
goes in another direction with hashtag La Tragedia.
La tragedia. Iba a pasar la tragedia. And it's funny. Okay, so here's a funny thing, right? So my sister and her boyfriend and my mom were watching the game, with me here in the apartment. And then I was like, I'm not gonna say it. 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 And then my sister's boyfriend says it, right? It's like, I want to put it to the test if it's just you or it's those words. So nothing happened. It's like, yeah, it's just you. I'm like, damn it.
I tweeted it out like with like 5 minutes before regulation ended.
Yeah. Oof. I guess it is just me then. I have the power of the words.
Gonzalez.
I am the power was bestowed to me by Guillermo Gonzalez of RGVFC. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to call him Guillermo because he gets mad.
Yeah, his wife will probably kick it.
It's an inside joke from it's a reference to soccer for the soccer teams from Monterrey. Anyway, but anyways, so all right. So what were your reactions? I'll go ahead and go with Jacob now. Jacob, what were your reactions after this match, which ended a 0-0 draw?
Well, I mean, I think my reactions were kind of as much as yours. It's like, well, you expect the defense to keep playing well, basically, and that's exactly what they did. Yes, in my opinion, it wasn't just like you. It wasn't a perfect game. For sure, they can improve tremendously, even on the defensive front. But now you're starting to get the feel with, of course, a couple of guys like Kyle Adams still, he's back with the team. And you have a couple of guys just like that. That's about their second or third game back in RGVFC. So that was a good sign, in my opinion. I thought that was impressive. Of course, yeah, I was a little surprised to see a 0-0 draw, but at that same time, it goes back to it's a little similar. Our offense still isn't producing what we have expected them to produce from, of course, that drop off of last season where it was impressive. Of course, yes, you lose True Enriquez, you lose a couple of the other players. I know we're still talking about that, but it has affected this team so much. And even still, to this day, we cannot necessarily get ourselves a good goal, or if we do get ourselves a goal, our defense kind of backs off, or our offense backs off, and our defense basically has to play that back line. So, all in all, it was, to me, yeah, I was a little surprised, and it was an okay performance from RGVFC. Would have liked to see more, but maybe we can see more, of course, this Saturday. No, I'm getting too ahead of myself, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
So I wish I had some fancy graphics to show you all the lineup, just like I tried to do a couple years before with the FIFA Ultimate Team style lineups and stuff, but that takes too much time that I don't have. But, let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and mention what the starting 11 was for this particular match against OKC Energy. So we had going into this game, we had Paul Blanchett on goal, back on goal after being benched by Ryan Coulter, the goalkeeper coach. So I'm pretty sure that probably lit a fire underneath Paul Blanchett somehow. At least that's what I think. And we were talking about that, Ray and I, not only in last week, but I think in some discussion during the week. The off camera. So you had obviously a line of four, like it's usually commonplace for the Toros. You had Carter Manley playing as a right back. You had Eric McHugh, who was loaned down from the Houston Dynamo to RGVFC for the rest of the season. Eric McHugh and Robert Castellanos as your center back pairing. Robert Castellanos being the captain and playing lights out this whole season. And then you had Kyle Adams playing left back in replacement of Robert Coronado, who, as you all remembered, was given a red card at around the 21st minute against Austin Bold 2 weeks ago. So he was not going to be able to play against OKC. So Kyle Adams had to step in and fill in the role. Like I mentioned last week, Kyle Adams really isn't a stranger to the position. So just like I had predicted, I felt like that was going to be the starting lineup, and it actually happened. So in that regard, I'm pretty happy that prediction actually came true. Then you had in the midfield, you had James Murphy and Isidro Martinez as your center midfielders. You had Tyberson on the right wing, on the right midfielder. Then you had Deshane Beckford on the left. And then also in the middle, you before I forget, actually, I can't believe I forgot. But in the middle as well, along with Cello and James Murphy, you had Kembo Kibato. And then up on top, you had Garrett McLaughlin as the center striker for the RGVFC Toros team. The USL website actually has Kembo as the center attacking midfielder for the team. But then if you look at the average positions of this of the Toros team throughout the whole match, you notice that the average position for Kembo was actually, and you will be surprised by this, he on average was higher up the field than Garrett McLaughlin. What are your reactions to that? I'll go with Ray with this one.
Throughout the course of the game, I mean, Kembo seemed a little bit more inspired just due to his last few performances that he's had, especially getting on the score sheet finally.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't so surprising to me. But here's the bigger surprise, though. In the second half, when the Oklahoma City Energy got a hold of some possession, they've got some corner kicks. I was pretty shocked that when Eric McHugh left the pitch for Diego Rocha, and the first immediate assignment that Diego Rocha drew was veteran player Omar Cummings to mark him on a corner kick. Rocha held up his ground very well.
And this is coming from a kid right out of the academy, mind you guys.
19 years old, going up with a seasoned veteran. Okay, take that into consideration. Seasoned veteran.
Yes.
Now, another thing that surprised me that going back to the original question there with Dorado, he's got to keep playing like that in order to give the team an opportunity to get a striking shot or something, because right now none of our forwards are producing anything. Now, during the second half of the game, there were more clear chances for the Toros than what they had in the first half. Shane Beckford had a couple of one-on-ones. McLaughlin had an opportunity to score. And that for me is a sign of encouragement, because if you look at all of the other opportunities that they've had in other games, where else did they get these 1v1 opportunities? So that for me is kind of a sign of encouragement. Also, another thing that stood out: no Juan Carlos Obregon, no Luca Perpa. Both left on the bench.
Yeah.
I think that might serve as a wake-up call to both of them to ignite them a little fire under their you-know-what. Perhaps start getting their act together, or otherwise this might be a one-and-done situation for both of them.
And you're speaking about who again?
Juan Carlos Obregon and Perpa.
All right. So, I think it's this. No, it's this. No, which one is it? There we go. It was actually the second topic. Sorry. Trying this new thing out where you'll actually see the topics that we're going to be talking about right below us. So, we're talking about... Ray has segmented us into talking about the offensive woes of this team. And one of the things that I've talked about the past couple of weeks, I think since the season restarted, was the idea that Garrett McLaughlin was not helping this team, exerting pressure on the offensive defense when they had the ball. I think I said it against Austin. I said it against the first time at OKC. I think I said it against San Antonio as well. No, because against San Antonio, he came off the bench, if I'm not mistaken. I said it, but I think I did say it against El Paso, right? So in this match against OKC the second time around, the one that happened last week, you notice that Garrett McLaughlin was actually exerting pressure. He was actually running, trying to pressure the defense in their transition from OKC's transition from offense to attack. In previous games, the ball, like I said, the ball could pass right next to him, and he just never looked like he never exerted any effort to try to intercept the ball. And this time, he was actually running around trying to create pressure. Which, thank you, Garrett. Whether you heard it from us or Coach, it doesn't matter. But the fact that you have actually done an effort to fix that part of your game, we really, really appreciate it. However, now you need to look at your finishing. And that goes for everybody. That goes for everybody in the attack. You mentioned, Ray, that he had a 1v1 opportunity. He tried to chip the keeper instead of trying to place it at the base of the post. It's one of those cases, like they say in Spanish, goles que no vuelven, right? It's one of those opportunities that were going to be difficult to have once again. 1v1 opportunity, you had left the defense behind. And that split-second decision making, look, I understand it's not easy, but this is what separates the strikers that nobody remembers to the great strikers that make history. And so that's something that, now you advance in one thing. Now let's look at this. How can you improve in this aspect in order to help this team? Because let's be honest, this team offensively, it isn't working at all. There's a stat, actually, that the Toros sent out via their 3 points to the game that they usually send out. And I want you all to hear this. Though the team has created chances, they continue to not be able to finish plays. By the way, thank you, Amairani Ramirez, for this. We really appreciate these. Which the offensive effort has lacked thus far. The squad has totaled 72 shots. Only 28 were on target and decreasing their conversion rate to 6.9%. I'm going to do a dramatic pause here just to let that sink in a little. Here's the kicker. Defender Robert Castellanos leads the team with 9 total shots, 3 on target, with Tyberson following at 8 total shots and 3 on target, also creating 5 chances for the club. Brownsville native Isidro Martinez leads the Toros with 13 chances created, which has also added 4 shots, 1 on target. RGVFC need to focus on finishing key plays in order to put the teams behind and start earning points as the team reaches midway the 2020 season. Jacob, what do you think of that?
Well, I mean, she said it best. It's simple as that. Those numbers, it goes back to the saying, numbers don't lie. And for our best striker, Isidro Martinez, to only have created 13 chances, which led to 4 shots, which were on goal, basically,
But the fact that your center back
exactly
has more total shots than the rest of the team is infuriating and worrisome for me. At least for me. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, it's simple. In order to be successful, especially in soccer, I mean, we've seen this even in NHL now, and you can agree with me, Ray. Yes, that's 5 players on the ice at one time. But, yeah, we go back to soccer. You have to be clicking at the same exact time. You have to be in sync, basically. we've seen it live. Even Ray and I have seen it live this season from the resume when we had our first game at home, where the passes were sloppy. It looked like they did not want to keep possession in some points. And then they don't get focused enough sometimes on defense, which we've only seen it a couple of times where they have to be pressed all the way back. And it's a whole thing. It just looks terrible, especially on the team when your offense can't get going, but your defense can. Then, of course, just you have to be in sync. That's what won us games last year. That's what's winning teams games this year. We have not won a game this season either. So it's just frustrating numbers. Let me tell you that. I get frustrated when I hear that.
You look at the stats for shots for this team.
Mm-hmm.
Like we mentioned, Robert Castellanos, the tie percent, top 2. Juan Carlos Obregon with 7 shots is third, then followed by this Shane Beckford with 6. At those point, having those 3 up in the top, well, it's normal. They're offensive players, right? But those are your wingers. Those are technically your wingers. And Juan Carlos Obregon tends to play as a striker sometimes, depending on where he's placed when he is subbed in. But where is your starting striker? The one whose job is to put those balls at least in the direction of goal. Well, he is in 8th place with 8 appearances and only 5 shots. You're telling me he has less than a shot per appearance. Everybody else, I mean, Lucatero 6 appearances, 5 shots, but at least he's like almost there, right? Mm-hmm. But McLaughlin, you're talking about like almost 1 shot every 2 games. Like those are horrible numbers for a striker. Or am I wrong, Ray?
Yeah, I mean in the pro ranks, okay, the those numbers are a bit like a bit shocking, a bit everything. But now this is like the time of the season where you gotta start turning that corner quick, or otherwise you're not gonna have much of a job for next.
Yep.
I mean, you've seen this organization not be afraid of making that switch, and very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this was probably a wake up call for the 2 strikers that did not see action last week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry to say it like that, but when you're supposed to have your strikers, like, oh man, like, oh man, I mean, it's terrible to even mention them by name, but it's kind of difficult to rehash a problem that's been the Achilles heel of a team.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that in mind, I just hope that uh, this this Saturday against Austin, I kind of hope I see the same lineup, because basically that's what kind of gave us our hope. I mean, Iverson gave a good 70 minute performance before he got subbed off.
Mm-hmm.
Shane Beckford, he had a couple of one-on-ones that easily should have been converted goals. McLaughlin, usually he's supposed to be like one of the top scorers, but there's like no gunpowder available to him.
Yeah.
And of course you've got a midfielder in Kembo who's, who who is basically not afraid to go up there and battle and try to put himself in a position to score a goal, and that's probably a good sign of encouragement from him because it just shows that he has that hunger to, hey, you know what, I want to contribute in scoring goals, so hey, why not have a
Mhm.
go at it?
So my dad brings up this question, and I bring it up for both of you guys. Because his comment is, and somehow with these stats, talking about McLaughlin, somehow he's still a starter every game. What are we looking for by putting him on the pitch every game? Is it the fact that he is a Dynamo draft pick that is the reason why, even with these numbers, he still gets a start over, let's say, Juan Carlos Obregón?
You know, there's been opportunities for Obregon to kind of like open that scoring account this season, but he's also kind of uh, failed to convert that. Another guy that didn't even see the pitch was your personal favorite, Christian Lucas. Yeah, try to smile at that one for a little bit.
Facepalm.
Yeah, I know. So that kind of shows you that hey, okay, you've got two quality players on the bench that were supposed to be your big time uh, striking players, but now
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where like okay, where else are we supposed to get our offense from type of
Mhm.
like where else?
And it's interesting because in this in this in this stat sheet by the USL, granted, you know, Kyle Edwards is above Garrett McLaughlin. Christian Lucatero is above Garrett McLaughlin by one, or actually they're tied. Kyle Edwards and Garrett McLaughlin are tied with the same number of shots, but both Kyle and Christian Lucatero have had less appearances than the striker. And Juan Carlos Obregón, 7 appearances, 7 shots. You know, so at least you see that at least he gets at least one shot every game, every time he appears. You know, so he's a lot more active in that aspect, trying to find that. Maybe it's just me picking on the guy too much. I don't know. But you look, but the numbers just, to me, the numbers don't lie. Garrett McLaughlin is not the striker that we need. Maybe he needs some more time developing, I don't know, League One or at another league. I'm not sure. Maybe he wasn't ready to make the jump from college to the pros and at the D2 level. But I don't know. I honestly think that really means that Matt Jordan, I'll continue to say it, Matt Jordan does not have an eye for draft pick talent.
Yeah, I mean, I'll even add on to this. It just goes back to this whole thing of the college game is so much more different than the USL game, the pro game to be exact. And not to mention that it just seems like this team in general with RGVFC, only in some spots on our lineup do we have where there's actually a legit competition for a position. The rest of it, especially, I mean, you mentioned it earlier on this show, where our striker positions, basically our forward positions, doesn't have that. That's the whole reason why we're seeing guys like him start, because the other guy didn't necessarily work out. So yes, you can call that a competition all you want, but if it's two failing guys, you have to stick with the one that's just barely better. and they're not getting any better throughout the season. They're not improving. And those college draft picks, I'm going to say it again, they don't matter. Some of them actually make it out of college to be better, better players, but it's like the MLB. It's like all this. After high school, go straight to focusing on one thing if you want to make it your profession.
And I think another aspect that I think this season we have failed with is the lack of veteran presence in the attack.
Yeah.
Because at least right now we have veteran presence on the defense with Carter Manley coming in, Castellanos, finding the right time to find that maturity on and off on the pitch, to bring in these kind of performances week in and week out. Being a very consistent throughout this tournament. Obviously against Austin Bold, Robert Coronado, messed up the game plan for the rest of the team. So really, he tried to make do, and even then, like, he had amazing numbers against Austin Bold, and yet we, due to some other players, not 100% fit, left open spaces that Austin Bold took advantage. So I think to me, this goes back to the plan, how this team was planned. Nobody expected COVID. Definitely understand that. Coach has mentioned many times that the original plan was that players like Michael Salazar, who, by the way, is out still with a knee injury with the Houston Dynamo, and this comes straight from Tab Ramos himself. Also mentioned Nico Hansen, also mentioned Marcelo Palomino. Those kind of players were supposed to be coming in regularly with RGV for this 2020 season, but COVID screwed everything over. And now we were left with a bunch of young guys, to have to pick up the responsibility of taking this team into playoffs. They made signings to kind of bolster that defense with Carter Manley, with Emil Ago. Well, actually, no, because he's here since the beginning. Carter Manley, Jonathan Jimenez, but more specifically Manley, because he has experience in MLS. He also has experience in League One with Forward Madison, And right off the bat, when you saw Carter Manley get thrown into this game, he helped Castellanos improve a lot more. They improved his game. Now, one of the things I didn't mention, and while we go into our next topic, which is the fact that we've got our first clean sheet of the season. Defensively, it was expected, like Ray, and I think Jacob, you said it as well. It was expected to have a good defensive performance in this game. Paul Blanchett continues to make really, really awesome saves. And I think I said it either last week or 2 weeks ago. The problem with Paul Blanchett is that he plays lights out 85 or 95% of the 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But in that just one moment where he loses his concentration or something happens, he makes a very horrific mistake. And we get scored on. But the fact that the guys up top can't score goals to counteract that mistake that he might have, that's what made his mistakes a lot more glaring, because those mistakes cost us points. But if the guys up top would actually do their job and score, maybe we wouldn't be focusing as much on Blanchett's mistakes. And against OKC, he looked very focused, very concentrated, all 90 plus minutes of the match, earned his clean sheet, made a lot of crucial saves in this match. So I feel like Paul Blanchett might have the potential to kind of follow that tradition, per se, of RGV having really good goalkeepers throughout their history. Mm-hmm. And Paul Blanchett just keeps setting the bar higher up for himself. and I want to see that. I want to see him improve every week, and I just don't want to see him making these mistakes that cost us. Look, if it's a golazo, okay, you won't reach it. Okay, we definitely understand. It's something where you can't do anything about it. Okay, fine. But if it's a bad decision, that's some of the things where you look back and you got to improve on that. And it looks like he's improved on that. And I also think the fact that he was benched last week against Austin Bold, like I said, probably kind of lit a fire beneath him to continue to press himself to stop making those kind of mistakes.
I did say this at the end of the match last week. I thought he deserved man of the match performances, and thank you to the courtesy of Bot Mob, the application available through Google Play and Apple iTunes.
Yeah.
He earned a solid 8-1 performance. Now, if you want to look uh, at what some of the others turned in as far as performance-wise, Kyle turned in a solid 7. Carter Manley was also up there in the solid 7.5 range. This was, total team effort for the team. Let me get the lineup here real quick. Kyle Adams turned in a 7-1. Carter Manley turned in a 7-1 as well. Martinez, if it wasn't for that game-saving lunge or sliding challenge at the end, he doesn't get himself a 7, but he got himself a nice 7-3 for his performance.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the substitutes that came off the bench, Rocha got himself a 5-6, which is a bit harsh on the guy because he had to defend a veteran like Omar Cumming.
And I think the thing that maybe, I don't know if I'm mistaking the match, but I think in the OKC match, right after he came in, and I think this is why he got a low score by FODMOV, was the fact that there was one play where Rocha slipped on the pitch, and that allowed OKC an opportunity to take a dangerous opportunity inside the box. And I think that is where he probably had a lot of points deducted from him per se in the match. Like I said, I really think that Rocha is a lot of the times when you debut an academy player, especially on defense, you usually notice where you don't have, a more experienced player or a more quality player per se, and in the case like Eric McHugh. And but with Rocha, the times that he has been in the match, he really hasn't looked out of place or anything like that.
Yeah.
Honestly. So I think I agree with you with the fact that I think 5.6 is a little bit too harsh on the kid. I might even go with like a 6.5. If it's gonna be lower than a 7, I would say a 6.5, but not a 5.6. I don't think he's that bad. It's
for sure I would have given him that solid 6.3 maybe, but for sure the guy deserved at minimum a solid 6.
Yeah. So don't forget, guys. If you guys have not done so, be sure to like this video. Be sure to share the link with all of your friends. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever you have. Share it out. We try to be a lot more interactive with you guys. Chat's been a little bit slow today, but as you can see, when somebody has posted something in the chat, we try to be interactive, answer any kind of questions or any topics that you guys might bring into the table. So also be sure to follow us on our social media, which are up there. There we go. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of them are at Down in the RGV. So be sure to follow us in all of our social media accounts so you guys will always be notified even when we're not live. We usually talk and discuss about many important things that happen in regards with the Toros, any news or anything, any topics that are discussed, or if you just want to see me vent sometimes, like yesterday, and we'll talk about that later on, really, really quick. We talked about I think the clean sheet. I think there's really not much to say other than, once again, they're doing their job defensively. I already talked about the offensive woes that they still need to improve, and honestly, I think at this point, this is what we have. I think this is what we're gonna have to get used to. This is not the formula for success, but it's what we have, and there's really not much we can do, especially with RGV being an affiliate and Dynamo pretty much calling all the shots when it comes to player signings and everything like that, or even loans. So for those of you that want to blame Ron Patel or Coach Echeverry, look, Coach Echeverry, like I mentioned, he has his faults. He's not a perfect coach. Nobody is, and maybe that could be the difference, between this team being doing better with the talents that we have, per se. But he's not a bad coach. It appears sometimes that his hands are tied with how they prepare this team, So, and he has to make do with what he's got. So I don't agree with people saying that he should be cut. Yes, it's been 3 years. I know somebody posted on Facebook the fact that he's only won 15 games in 3 years. I agree. It's not a good stat. And I know you've said it many times, Ray. You've said that quote. Go ahead and repeat that quote that you always say.
Bill Parcells is more famously noted by saying, "Your record says what you are what your record says you are."
And that's what worries me about this, is that Coach Echeverry isn't a bad coach, but this record that he is having with RGV, this is gonna follow him for the rest of his career as a coach. And I personally don't think it's fair when it's something when it's mostly because of things he cannot control, with the planning of rosters or anything like that, which is why I'm now advocating for independence. There, I said it.
I mean, we kind of knew that, Edson. We kind of knew that. Everybody's really going towards independence. I mean, come on. The way that you also speak about, Mr. Baldhead Matt Jordan, which, yes, he's bald. Come on. I know I'm going to be bald one day. You're going to be bald one day. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Don't tell me that.
But, yeah, my point being, we know. And I kind of want that way, too, just to see how it would go for 1 year, of course. Would Houston ever forgive us? Not really.
I mean, at this point, it's more along the lines of, will we forgive the Dynamo? Same answer. I don't think not really. Mm-hmm. So anyways, let's move on with the next topic at hand. Where is Ian Hoffman? So a couple of weeks ago, RGVFC and the Houston Dynamo, they both released a statement. Oh, by the way, Rascal, get back over there. Thank you. That's Rascal the Red Panda. Not mine. That's my sister's. But so a couple of weeks ago, RGVFC and the Houston Dynamo announced the signing of Ian Hoffman by the Houston Dynamo. In the press release, they mentioned that Ian Hoffman would be loaned down to RGV for the rest of the 2020 season. Young kid, we talked about in previous episodes. He can play in the midfield, he can play on the defense, very versatile, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you guys want to know more about that kind of thing, you can check out our previous episode. Might have been 2 weeks before. But we talked about more in depth about Ian Hoffman. Well, last week, the Houston Dynamo posted on their social media pictures of training as they get prepared now that MLS will be back once again which actually they'll play tomorrow against Frisco, you know. But
The
anyways,
fans who boo at their own players.
and throw them beer, right?
Exactly. Yep, yep. That is
Yeah.
true.
Una bajeza, la verdad. Una bajeza, la verdad. So, but in those pictures that they posted, and in fact, there was one tweet from the Houston Dynamo where their focus was Ian Hoffman, you know, and he was training with the Dynamo first team. A lot of us were confused. I know a lot of us, were asking me like, "Hey, well, what's up with Ian Hoffman? I thought he was going down to RGV, or what's going on?" So today, in a press conference with Coach Echeverry, Ray actually asked that question. Asked Coach Echeverry about Ian Hoffman, and so we'll go ahead and let Ray talk about that.
Well, when I asked Coach about Ian Hoffman, he said the following: Look, he'll be down. He'll be down in the valley. Uh, pun, in,
Hey,
pun intended. He'll be down in the valley to do a little bit more quarantine before he actually becomes available to the Toros. Apparently, just kind of like just reading into the coach's words, he wanted to see a little bit. Tab Reynolds and the Dynamo organization wanted to see a little bit more of Hoffman to see how he would perform with first team practices and such. And I think next week might be the ideal time for him to make his way down to Edinburgh, Texas. So
hmm.
that's the update that the coach gave in.
So keep in mind that he had obviously he had to follow the protocols of quarantine, and then have to run COVID test, make sure he's negative. Believe it's twice the minimum, right? If I'm mistaken, for USL.
Yes, twice. But then since he was training with the Dynamo, the things change a little bit now because not only do you have to take the COVID-19 testing, but you also have to be isolated for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of like the delay a little bit while you take your first exam and then try to do some conditioning, and then you get tested again, and then the 10-day quarantine. And that's why kind of a little bit of the delay as to why he hasn't been down here yet. So.
Yeah. So good information. I know, like I said, a lot of people were asking me what was, and I'm sure Ray, you probably had some people kind of mentioning you as well, asking what's going on with Ian Hoffman. That's basically what it is. He's training with the Dynamo first team. He will be sent down. That's what I'm hoping. He will be sent down to RGV as early as next week. It would be great to have him. We'll see what he can help with this roster going into the rest of the 2020 season. Keep in mind, guys, we are nearing the halfway point, if we're not there already, of this season. Remember, it's only 16 games, and I think we just finished the week number 8, so we're at the halfway point of the season. You know, so now moving on. Ray was also continuing on. He was also in the press conference where Coach Echeverry also talked about the upcoming match against Austin Bolt at home. He was also present with Chelo Martinez yesterday at press conference. So kudos to you being able to make it, Ray. But what were some of the things that were discussed in those two press conferences regarding Saturday's match?
Uh, you know, I was able to talk to Cello in Spanish because my English question kind of rolled off the wrong way for a little bit. But speaking to Cello, and this is just me translating, and said, he, he he feels like the team should be able to do a little bit more now that they were able to get the shutout. That now they have that that boost in confidence that they were able to hold an opponent at zero, and now they want to come display. They want to come display that here at home against a challenging Austin side that loves to slow the pace of the game, and that loves to that wear down a speed teams like RGB, and like they've been able to do in the past, and also Gerson Echeverry had said during his weekly presser that you know the Austin coach had told him like, hey, look, had you guys not gotten that red card, we would have been beaten down at least 3-4 nil because you guys were like on it and our guys looked a little bit laggy, which kind of speaks to what Austin likes to play because just remember Austin then didn't have a lot of time to prepare, and then plus they were hit by COVID,
Mm-hmm.
so there's uh, that to mess around with. So Austin is slowly starting to find their groove a little bit, and I just feel like okay, this is an opportunity for the Toros to really go on the front foot because Austin is entering, like I've mentioned before, each one is going to be entering that gauntlet where teams are going to have their 3 games in 7 days. And for the Toros themselves, uh, they're going to have a little gauntlet stretching for the next 2 weeks where they'll have 4 games in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, but heavier, uh, with the heavier end coming, um, coming up on the second week of that stretch because after Austin, they'll have a derby game versus San Antonio at home on Friday night. So you're not even gonna get a complete week of rest.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're gonna have to get on a plane, travel to Tulsa for a Wednesday night game, just to then follow it up to San Antonio at Toyota Field. So you're gonna see an opponent twice in a matter of 3 weeks.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's kind of important to get a positive result here at home against both who are on that outside looking in to kind of like just perch their momentum as they're going to enter a tough stretch of games uh, coming up with them. Now for us, the confidence booster is we've gotten the goose egg. We know what it takes. And now that they're going to have a complete lineup to choose from, which we'll probably see the same back four in which they used against OKC, with the exception, I think, Eric McHugh. Where would you put him in the lineup? Because right now, there's a lot of guys who have in game form that have been performing pretty well. The only possible change I could see is uh, James Murphy getting benched for Eric McHugh. Um, as far as the midfielders go, because Eric McHugh can play a little bit of the defensive midfielder type role. So
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of see that as our midfield, um, and that would be the only lineup change I would see at this moment.
So, a couple of things with this. So, number one would be that so Austin Bowl, like you mentioned, are coming into this game having played on Wednesday. I believe, yeah, on Wednesday. That's correct against Tulsa, where they drew 2-2. Both of those goals were, kind of, they came from behind both times, so 2-2. Then they tied against San Antonio at San Antonio 1-1 last Saturday. So, how, with everything that they've been going through, how tired do you think they're going to be going into this match, Jacob?
I mean, eh, really, I wouldn't expect them to be that tired, in my opinion, because we all know, just like Ray stated, we're going to be in that same gauntlet. And technically, RGVFC have been in that way before. I know Austin Bold. It's just going to be one of those things where I don't expect them to be tired at all
Mm.
because you're a soccer team. You still have a good lineup. They're not an affiliate. We are. I just don't expect that team to be that tired. I expect them to play that same type of game that they did at Austin Bold and how they've played against us, where they just try to get in our heads. They try to get in RGVFC's heads, and it's worked. Our players have fallen for it. We saw a player not too long ago fall for it. That's why, of course, he got suspended for one match, in my opinion. It's just one of those things where they're going to play that game whether they're tired or not, and it's going to hopefully not hurt us this time, but no guarantees on that.
Ray?
Jacob, just to counter your point a little bit, I think Austin, since they have a lot of games in hand, I think they're going to go through a little bit more gauntlet. So right now that the Toros are receiving a well-traveled Austin side, I think this might be the opportunity where the Toros smell a little bit of blood in the pool, and they may want to jump on it, which is why I not fully disagree with you, but you got to take that into consideration that, okay, they play that rugged, slow you down type soccer, while the Toros are going to be like that fresh team. And of course, the gauntlet for the Toros doesn't start until the following week. So this would be the one time that if you're going to seize an opponent the way you want to seize an opponent, this is it right here.
Yeah.
Because just to refresh you a little bit, Austin Bold have 2 games in hand. Okay. And right now, if you look at their last 5, they've only won one of their games, which coincidentally against us. Coincidentally. So this is the one moment that that they're gonna want to seek blood. This is it right here.
The other question that I have for you, Jacob, because you brought it up, Ray. Now that Robert Coronado is back from his suspension, who will be the sacrifice to put him back in the lineup? Or would you even put him back in the lineup?
Personally, for me, I would put him back in because he's one of the better defenders that can provide some offense. To be honest with you, I mean, our team is lacking goals.
Mm-hmm.
Our team is lacking an offensive spark plug. He's been playing real well. I mean, discredit the one game that I guess kind of blew a little bit of a gasket against Austin, but I just feel at this point, I mean, you got to go with your quote unquote best offensive lineup that will try to provide you at least a spark plug, and that isn't afraid to go up front and try to create something out of nothing. I mean, Coronado and Castellanos and Carter have had that ability to show that, and even Kyle Adams. He even had a shot.
Oh yes.
That it came close to nothing to like being an authentic golazo.
Yeah, that play I remember. As soon as he shot it, I was like, "Kyle, what the hell are you doing?" Then all of a sudden, it just dropped down like all of a sudden, and like
I love you.
I was like, man, I need more of this, man. Like, give me more of this. I'm sorry I doubted you, Kyle. But yeah, I think you have a point in regards to what Coronado can bring to you offensively. Because if you look back into the stats for chances created, Robert is up there. He is 3rd place behind Cello and Luca Perpa. 9 chances created and 7 appearances. So the guy can influence your attack offensively. We saw that with his assist his assist for Castellanos against Tulsa. If he is concentrated 100% against Austin and doesn't doesn't let something, get the better of him, his inexperience, or maybe he was feeling a little bit aggressive on the pitch, trying. I don't know if he was trying to prove something, whatever. I have no idea what was going through in that match. But if he can get that sorted out against Austin and not fall for Austin's, tricks of, el colmillo, like they say in Spanish, then I think he can offer something good for the Toros. Against Austin that time, he had a shot. He had he was offensively building up on that wing, that left wing for the Toros as it going up and down. That sacrifice of helping the attack and then having to come back and defend. Sadly, something got the better of him. Got himself 2 yellow cards in 20 minutes. Gets himself ejected, and that put the Toros in a very difficult situation. But Jacob, what are your thoughts? Would you put in Robert Coronado back on the lineup?
Well, I think Ray brings up some good points, and I mean, I guess I would, because, like you said, we do need some offensive power, and I think he can bring a little bit to the offense for sure, and he works well with Castellanos too. I mean, I would say why not try that back again? I know, though, that this defense that we had last game was pretty impressive. They were pretty good, in my opinion, too. So it can go back and forth for sure. Or sometimes, of course, even I'm not that great at picks. So do you want to mess with something that worked this past week, or do you want to bring in a player who, yes, ended up getting a red card against that same exact team? Yes, of course, Coronado probably proved himself, but the question is also, you have to think about this. How did he look this week in practice? Because we also need to think about that too. Did he look better than the person who filled him in? Because if he technically did not, even though he had that break per se, I would say keep the lineup as is. So in my opinion now, it all depends on how you play it in practice.
Very valid point. I would sub him. I would actually have him in the starting 11 because of the fact that defensively you don't drop a lot with having. In fact, it's almost negligible compared to having Kyle Adams there. But offensively, you gain a lot more with Coronado than with Kyle Adams. So I would have him start. Alongside Caste, alongside McHugh, and alongside Carter Manley. And then I think from Cello and Murphy to the back, I would not change a thing. I think offensively, I would sub out McLaughlin and I would put in Obregon at the start. Keep DeShane, keep Tyverson, keep Kembo behind him. But let's see what Obregon can do with those 3 behind him, because, like I said, we need goals, and Garrett McLaughlin isn't cutting it, and especially against a team like this, we need goals quick. Wish we had a killer striker, but alas, we don't. There's really nothing we can do. Got to deal with it. So, predictions. Ray, we'll start with you.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spotlight again, huh? Let's see. Regular prediction would probably be we haven't won a home match. I feel like this is blood in the water for the Toros. Oh man, I say we end up winning 2-1 against Austin. That's regular prediction. Jacob, your turn for regular prediction.
Okay, regular prediction. I say that we will probably draw at home. It will be another one of those no goal scoring affairs. Will be 0-0. He'll get the clean sheet, but we'll only get 1 point at home once again because, well, this team still, Austin Bold still technically got in their head. That's my regular prediction.
And keep in mind, guys, we need wins. We don't need draws. You know. So, my regular prediction: 1-1 draw. I really don't see how we can beat Austin Bolt, because if our offense isn't clicking, I mean, we can hold them back as much as we want. What I do want to see, though, I want to see the first 15 minutes in that match against Austin. I want to see that this game too. We can do it, but the problem is, I mean, we can generate the chances, but the problem is we can't score. We're at a 6.9 conversion rate, guys. Just remember that. So literally rookie numbers. Gotta bring it up. Gotta bring them up, Edson. So, bold prediction.
I'll take the lead on this one. Bold prediction. We get the win and we hold a shutout.
Ooh.
That's right. That's right. We're gonna hold a goose egg. Blanchette's gonna stand on his head. He's gonna make a lot of key saves. Our defense is gonna hold up for the full 90. I just foresee Coach making a lot of offensive-minded substitutions, and the game winner is going to come off the bench by your boy Christian Lucatero.
Ooh. If Lucatero scores that game-winning goal, oof.
Ponte a llorar, ponte a llorar, ponte a llorar.
Damn. That would be really surprising. That is really bold. Jacob, your bold prediction.
Bold prediction, going to say
Literally a bold prediction.
yeah, exactly. 4-0 Toro victory. We score a lot due to the fact that they missed some key players after a red card because they did not get in our heads. We actually were able to play their game, and yeah, they got caught.
My bold predict. Go ahead.
I can imagine Edson reacting like Beto reposting recargado after having a bad hair day, being all surprised like, hey, he scored.
Well, I'm going to get your bold prediction, Ray, and I'm going to bump it up a notch. My bold prediction, 3-1 win for the Toros, a brace by Garrett McLaughlin.
Well done, laddie.
That's my bold prediction. Last week, your bold prediction came true. Let's see if the bold prediction comes true this week for somebody. So,
I mean, we're playing a team that's got that name, so.
Right. All right. So, unless anybody else wants to add something regarding this match, I think we should be good to move on to a lighter topic per se.
Johnny Santos, any of you members from the Stampede, anyone?
Chat's a little bit quiet today. Must be a Thursday thing, probably. Like I said, guys, I appreciate you all coming in after a reschedule of the show. Like we usually air Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Something happened that I needed to do something yesterday in my personal life, so I had to postpone it for today at 7 p.m. But I appreciate every one of y'all who has been tuning in so far. Like I said, YouTube chat and Periscope chat are welcome for you guys to kind of give us your thoughts or your hot takes regarding the Toros. Even if they're negative, we accept negative comments about the team or lo que sea. But do remember, do be warned that we do also have, the right to rebuttal any statements, especially when they're backed, when we are backed by facts. Or if you're backed by facts too, you're more than welcome to do so. We love a little discussion, not only on the show, but also on social media. Just a quick reminder: be sure to check out our podcast on Stitcher, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and of course Anchor FM. And check out our stuff at the Beautiful Game Network's website, bgn.fm. Ray, you wanted to say something real quick.
Yes. Remember how our discussion in our State of the Toros that we had brought up a Adam John to MLS discussion?
Yes.
I had to edit that part a little bit because I was so way off on the transfer fee. Okay, that's one that was a big omission on my part that I had to make because of the transfer fee. Apparently, Rising Phoenix received $100,000 in transfer money to get Adam John to Atlanta United.
Okay.
Let that sink in for a little bit. And then there was this gentleman who posted as to why a lot of MLS teams don't go shopping in the USL. And one of the names that was brought up was Pirano and Busio.
And yeah, so let me go ahead and mention that that Twitter thread that you are referring to. So this person, Tutul Rahman, he mentions listening to the scuffed episode on USL prospects, and I'm now inspired to write this Twitter dissertation on the market efficiency of the USL to MLS pipeline. It says, fact, the USL to MLS pipeline is poor, like really poor. In most countries, the second division is a large source of talent for the first. In MLS, reserve side in USL going to parent club is becoming more common. For example, Aaron Long. But rating an outside USL club like Mark Anthony K's case is very rare. Question is why? Fact number 2. There is a large inefficiency of the valuation of USL prospects by MLS sites. Let's call this the Gallegos-Busio theorem. I think we can assume that the price for Jose Gallegos from San Antonio is somewhere between half or $1 million. But let's assume that Gallegos was actually on Houston Dynamo instead. That would be awesome. But, what would his price be with the same performance? The answer is likely what we see from SKC with Busio, easily in the $3 million plus range. So the same player could have widely different valuations. So what is preventing an MLS side cashing in on this gap? Fact 3. MLS salary cap rules are a major barrier. The salary cap hit is crudely described by this formula. Transfer fee plus total salary in the contract divided by total years in contract. So imagine Gallegos wants $300K a year for 3 years. That is a lot of money. At $1 million transfer fee, that's a salary cap hit north of $600K or a designated player unless you're using GAM, which I would not use.
Arbor bucks, in other words.
Yeah. I would not use I would not use a DP slot for a USL player, but that's just me. So by the way, Amber Alert for an 11 and a 13-year-old. So anyway, it just happened right now. So continuing on. Fact number 4. This is why Miguel Ibarra went to Liga MX instead of MLS back in the day. Even though he was called up by USMNT, MLS sides decided that he, as a USL player, wasn't worth the assets a team would have to go up, even though he clearly was good enough for MLS. Fact number 5. This barrier is more of a mentality and bias instead of a real bias against the USL. MLS sides give up assets like this for unproven talents all the time. The cost of a high draft pick is $300K in allocation. Portland paid $300K in TAM for the rights to Williamson. Red Bull New York is using a DP slot for Yearwood, who has only really played in League One. But there's a mental block preventing GMs to pull the trigger. Fact number 6. There is also work needed to be done to show the top USL talents that they won't lock them up and not develop or sell them. Let's call this the Jonathan Gomez conundrum. Solution: a club making a bet on taking advantage of the USL MLS pipeline inefficiency. They're willing to spend $400 to $500K in allocation for talent. They also sign the players in poison pill contracts, just like Reggie Cannon's contract, where the salary is backloaded, which incents the MLS team to sell. There is no reason why a club like Cincinnati or Colorado couldn't do this as a cornerstone of their transfer strategy. So basically, TLDR, it's Garber Bucks being the biggest roadblock for the USL to MLS pipeline to flourish like a lot of people would want it to be.
And also, one of the other transfers that I completely forgot to mention during our episode recording was Jack McBean being the English forward for Los Dos for like the longest time. He could never find footing with the MLS club. He got sold eventually to the Colorado Rapids. Transfer free, received for the Galaxy in the excess of $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
So take that into consideration as well. So think of Jack McBean being a long-time USL Championship player, and his only other way to get called up by an MLS club was being bought out to another MLS club. Another guy that comes to mind from New York Red Bulls too was Derek Etienne Jr. Yes, he was called up by the Red Bulls, but certainly didn't cut it. Guess who bought that contract? Columbus Crew.
Mm-hmm.
Transfer fee is unknown, but I know he scored the opening goal tonight for Columbus in the MLS restart again. So Eric Etienne is another name who played championship for like the longest time, could never find footing with MLS clubs. So there's that. So
Yeah.
maybe the pipeline from USL to MLS is pretty poor, but apparently it's not, because you're seeing some of these good Jew players get bought out by other MLS sites. But then you look at those independent teams like your San Antonios, your Sacramentos, your Indianapolises that have a lot of good scoring leaders like your Tyler Pashers, your Peranos, and your Cami Wassas that barely get an MLS chance.
Like even Junior Flemings for Phoenix Rising.
Yep.
But I think the thing is, and you bring up a good point, and the point that I want to try to make is the fact that these players that you mentioned, most of them come from two teams, MLS two teams. That in and of itself it gives them a higher priority for other MLS teams. Let's be honest. The fact is that MLS teams, at the end of the day, they will be more willing to make trades within themselves, even if it's for their two-team players, but they're still from an MLS organization. I feel that the biggest thing that's hurting is the fact that somehow, for some reason, MLS teams are more reluctant to go through negotiations with independent clubs. So I think that's where more of this whole thing about the pipeline not working should be focused more on the indies. The indies are the ones that, like, for some reason, MLS just doesn't want to consistently go through negotiations with them. So that's the whole thing right there. And I feel like it was a good topic to discuss. I mean, because it does also have to deal a little bit with MLS. It's also pretty fresh, since this thread just was I think it was this morning, when it was posted. Just kind of interesting to kind of talk about for a little bit. But Jacob, before we move on, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what you get with salary caps and all that fun stuff. And just the weirdest part is different clubs having just different ratings. It's very weird. It's indeed one of the weirdest things and that MLS has, and I don't think that will really ever get fixed, considering it's dumb. And then rating soccer players like that with how much money they're worth, cool. Some you can find for cheap that will be fantastic, and some that you might pay way too much for will not be. I mean, it's happened before. It's just one of those deals.
And also, one thing I wanted to mention real quick. I know MLS was mentioned for St. Louis just recently. It's going to be real interesting to see how many players from the current St. Louis side will probably make that MLS team. I'm probably guessing no more than 2 players. I'm looking at you, Todd Horton, and I'm looking at you, Sam Fink. Although there could be 2 to 3 others that can, spend all of preseason with the MLS side, but ultimately aren't going to be good enough to make it.
Goalkeepers, I bet you they'll take like their starting goalkeeper for third string or something like that.
Probably, but probably wouldn't want to make the same mistake that Cincy did. And I feel the fact that there's 2 different organizations technically, St. Louis FC, completely different organization, with St. Louis City SC. So I feel that it won't be like Cincy where they took like most of their team to MLS, because there's 2 different organizations. Period. So moving on to the final topic to talk about, and this is more of a event kind of thing, event opportunity for the 3 of us. I mentioned, Ray, you actually brought it up to my attention yesterday. So yesterday, and I know I know you know where I'm going with this. So yesterday, Glenn Davis of Soccer Matters tweeted about San Antonio FC on his personal Twitter account. For his Soccer Matters Austin, he's had already a San Antonio player on an interview. Meanwhile, in Houston, he has rarely, if any time, mentioned anything about RGV throughout its season. And that's because we are the affiliate of the Houston Dynamo. We have players that have the potential to be future Dynamo players. But for some reason, doesn't take the time to inform his audience, his Dynamo fan audience, about the Toros or anything like that. Apparently, San Antonio gives more ratings for him to talk about it on his show, to actually have a player on in Austin, which is even sadder. The fact that he would rather have a San Antonio player over an Austin Bold player on his show. So I'm pretty sure Austin Bold fans are probably feeling a little bit more slighted by that on his show. But the reason I mention this is because this proves my point that the general Dynamo fan base doesn't care about the Toros, or doesn't even feel like caring about the Toros. And it's embarrassing, it's annoying for me to have to see that. To have to see the Toros feel or be ignored by somebody like Glenn Davis, who has such a good reputation with the Dynamo fan base, is like the perfect opportunity to inform the fans of Houston about the Toros. But he doesn't. He doesn't take that opportunity. The responsibility falls on me, on the Pio. The responsibility falls on Federico of Todo Dynamo. We don't have. Hold on. Let me just finish. We don't have the reach that Glenn Davis does. I feel like it would be a shoo-in to to inform them, even if it's short segments. The only time he's mentioned RGV was about Ian Hoffman, but that's because Ian Hoffman is a Dynamo player, technically just happens to be loaned to RGV, and in fact, never mentioned that he was going to be sent down to RGV, if I recall correctly, on that show of Soccer Matters. Look, I respect Glenn Davis like a lot. He's another one of my mentors. He kind of let me gave me some guidance going into this market, into this whole thing of covering the soccer aspect of it. I respect it, and I understand maybe there's some things out of his control why he can't talk about the tours or something like that. My main thing is you, Glenn, have the ability to inform people about the Toros, make the Dynamo fan base a little bit more educated on the matter of RGV while we are still an affiliate at this point. But we don't have that either. And we as Toros fans feel very slighted, and that only adds fuel to the fire for those who want independence from the Dynamo. Because what's the point of being a partnership with them and having us have to send players to their team, to the city, when nobody cares about them while they're over here? And when they go over there, right off the bat, no, we don't want them. They're USL players.
You know, I don't want to sound very immature and very disrespectful to Mr. Glenn Davis. I mean, sure, he's a soccer icon when it comes to doing play-by-play, covering the Houston Dynamo and stuff like that. And I don't want to sound bad-ailed or bad-tempered here, but I think if one day, just one day, if the Houston Dynamo ever lets him go and he lands in Austin, I think he's going to be in for somewhat of a nice surprise for him, because I think Houston has kind of lost that passion for their team. And I think he's like throwing kitchen basin sink out there. Now, this could have been a thing where, like, okay, I might be going to Austin if crowds don't show up here for us, and which is perfectly fine. I just feel like with Austin getting an MLS team, this might be a start of a turn for him. I don't know the full details.
No, and I'm not complaining about the fact that he's having a show in Austin. It's great for him to expand it to a different market and have a show expand to a different market, and have his show kind of tailored to that specific market. What I'm kind of saddened and not necessarily disappointed, but saddened in the fact that in the Houston market, you could easily make mention of what's going on in the Rio Grande Valley, because at the end, the way this works, the players down here have an opportunity to make it up there. And that allows people to kind of know more about the Toros, follow the Toros, and be more informed about the players that could potentially be future Dynamo players. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't do that. That's what frustrates me. And the fact that he'd rather talk about San Antonio FC, our direct rival, on social media rather than the Toros, you have to see it from our perspective too. It's like we feel slighted, and like, do we not care for you? I mean, you represent you. Glenn Davis represents is an icon for the Dynamo fan base. He is the main guy to inform fans about the Houston Dynamo and everything Dynamo related, whether on the play-by-play commentary or even in the or even in Soccer Matters. I mean, he's on ESPN Radio. He's got a huge market. He's got a huge audience. There's a reason why Soccer Matters has been on the air for so many years, because he's got the audience. And that could easily be used to explain more about the Toros, which, if y'all forget, we're technically still part of this organization too. I feel bad for the Dash too, because sometimes, he talks about the Dash, but I think a lot of people are going to forget that they're part of the organization too. But they're part of the Houston market. I understand, yes. Talk about the Dynamo, talk about the Dash, because they're in market. But I'm not expecting Glenn to talk like 30 minutes about everything that's happening in RGV. But at least make more mention on your Twitter about what's going on with the Rio Grande Valley. Make an effort to be a part of the media list for RGV. Toros are still part of this organization in one way or another. You would want to be informed about it, and that's why I'm glad that Victor Araiza talks about this team, or asks about this team, or even watches the games of RGV to know more about this team and kind of talk to his audience about the Toros.
Yeah, I'm going to say something here. Also, I'm not going to defend this man one bit, because it is kind of ridiculous what he is doing. But let's remind ourselves, just like you mentioned earlier, Guy does not like the Toros organization in general. He thinks it's too far. He's one of those people. Guess what? Why is he talking to San Antonio players? Why is he basically moving up to Austin? Location. It's as simple as that. And what I mean by location is from Houston to San Antonio, that's like an hour drive at most, maybe 2-hour drive. I might be a little off on that, but same deal with Austin. That's pretty close to Houston. And of course, as annoying as it may be, that is the truth, part of the truth there. Like I said, he hates that RGVFC is so far away, which is absolutely stupid. Like you said, RGVFC are still part of the organization as well. He needs to make a bigger effort, and that is most definitely true. He does not. I would not be shocked to see him in the future, even if he doesn't get picked up by them, to kind of just have to be as unbiased as possible once again, because right now it does not look that way, and it doesn't sound that way even on his Twitter. He's talking about San Antonio for no reason whatsoever. He's talking about Austin for a tiny reason, because they're heading to the MLS, and he's not even talking to Austin Bold players. He just really, let's be real, he does not like second division leagues. Very frustrating. It makes you lose a little respect for the man, because he just does not. What more is there to say? He doesn't care. He won't ever care, and it's super annoying. It's one of those things where also your fan base has to be more active, which they're plenty active on Twitter, in my opinion. RGVFC fans are, but it's one of those things where you got to at the man. You've got to also respond to his text saying, "Hey, what about this team? They're affiliates. Don't forget about this team. Don't forget about them." It also can come down to us, and it also can come down to just, we've got to pressure him. If anything, call on his show. So, yeah, it can somewhat be on us, but at that same time, he's got to be smart. He's got to know, guess what? We're still a part of this. RGVFC is still a part of this freaking team. And that's really all I have to say on that. It's just making him look worse.
So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I just wanted to kind of talk about that. I think for me, it's not really about losing respect. Like I said, I really respect everything he's done, like for Houston soccer. That is not changed at all whatsoever when I mention this. But I do want to see him be a little bit more willing to cover this team, because at the end of the day, we're still part of the Dynamo organization.
Big time.
We want to feel wanted by the Dynamo fan base. And at this point, outside of those fans, which I really do appreciate their support, that follow Down in the Valley, or really like Webb and all of the other Dynamo fans that follow what goes on with the Toros, but I'm talking about like the general fan base. Most of the ones that listen to Glenn Davis's show, they don't know anything about the Toros, and he has the opportunity, he has the tools to help expand knowledge about the Toros. But it seems like he doesn't want to do it. Just doesn't generate ratings. But it all goes back on having a winning product. And let's be honest, the Toros do not have a winning product that makes it feasible or at least attractive for people to talk about. Let's be honest. The articles that I write in Spanish about the Toros, it's usually the least watched in Mente Futbolera, or least viewed in Mente Futbolera. Why? Because all the time I'm talking about them losing or tying. Or the fact of the matter is, it's the affiliate, But I try my best. I'm spreading myself too thin sometimes, which is why I leave that kind of in the back burner for a while. But I try my best to inform. But like I said, this is not supposed to be like a personal attack on Glenn Davis whatsoever, or me trying to diminish his reputation or his trajectory in the business. That stays intact. It's just more of a grievance, more of a suggestion kind of thing. Like, just give us more coverage. Are we or are we not part of your organization? Now, if we do become independent and you don't want to talk about us, fine.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. I'm just kind of pissed off that San Antonio gets more talk, and I'm surprised Harry hasn't made fun of me of this. The fact that San Antonio it gets more mentions from Glenn than we do. But anyway, guys, it's gonna be 8:45 already. I think we've kind of rambled long enough. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all of your support. If you guys missed any part of this episode, be sure to check out the archive right after the video ends processing, which usually takes about a couple of hours, not a little bit less. Check out the video archive on YouTube on our channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We will receive, and click on the little bell. You'll receive notification whenever we go live or we upload something to the YouTube channel. Also, be sure to check out the Down in the Valley official social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all down in the RGV. Check out our the Beautiful Game Network. You can find all of our podcasts there. So be sure to go to bgn.fm and find in the podcast section Down in the Valley. You'll find all our podcasts there. You will also find Carson Merck's articles of All Toros, No Bull in the BGN in the Rio Grande Valley FC section. Check out their sponsors, Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. Check out our sponsor, Natural Beauty Spa. Hope to be back to serve the Rio Grande Valley for all your skincare needs. And check out our podcast, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and Anchor FM. And once again, all I ask, if you guys enjoy the show, give it a like, share it, but more importantly, mention us on social media. Recommend us to all our social media members, as all your social media friends. We would love to see public recommendations of our show. Obviously, if you guys have any suggestions how to improve, we're more than our social medias are all open. Just like Jacob's, Ray's, and mine. We're open to suggestions. What else? I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Guys, thank you so much for everything. Ray, Jacob, thank you so much for coming in once again. After this postponement, really appreciate your commitment to being on the show. We had a great chat all day today, and let's hope we can get the win on Saturday against Austin Bold. So I just want to leave y'all with the final thoughts from Ray and Jacob. Whoever wants to go first.
All right, I'll go first. Hope we get the win Saturday, of course. That would be fun to see RGVFC get their first win for sure. Other than that, not much else to say. Defense needs to do their job again. Offense needs to score.
Ray?
Just my final remarks. That thanks for having me once again. Truly a privilege that you guys bring me on a weekly basis. I hope the Toros do get a win. I hope that the team can start turning that curve a little bit. And it's kind of a shame that Glenn Davis has gone to those resorts. After he was the one who lit the fire under a potential divorce between Toros and Dynamo. Who knows if there's any truth? Who knows? But I am quite disappointed with the way he went off, talking about another inferior division team, and specifically our rivals. But it is what it is, and we'll just have to carry on and live with the bitter disappointment that he's made as a journalist.
Yeah, and I guess like always, we're gonna be the ones. All three of us are gonna be the ones carrying the brunt of this backpack, per se, of carrying the information of this team and informing the public about the Toros. So, guys, wish you all a very good night, and hope to see you all next Wednesday, for another episode of Down in the Valley, brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. See y'all next time. Take care.